We're live.
All right, we're live, and boy, it's my honor, pleasure to have Richard Smith, the Keto Pro, on today, who I've been following, had a number of conversations with him over the years, and just another spectacular morning. A little coffee with Kiltz, although I drink hot water now. But for those who drink coffee, enjoy. Richard, how you doing, my brother?
My man. Super excited to be on. You and I met recently in the Healing Humanity event when you were kind enough to come over to the UK. Incredible gentleman, one of the true stars and titans within the industry. So the pleasure is all mine. Super excited.
Well, I've got Kiltz Mighty Tribe live, and people can hear. And then we got Instagram, people can hear. And I'll if there's questions coming from there, I'll go from there. But YouTube, Facebook, we're on through StreamYard, and really a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this healing world and went from Keto Pro to carnivore crazy man.
So, yeah, look, my story, I think, isn't too dissimilar to many of our fellow ketonians and carnivores. I was once clinically obese. I was severely insulin resistant. I was in a diabetic range. I suffered with chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, arthritic pains, daily debilitating migraines that would make me blind, for which I was on 3 different medications for. I had severe skin conditions, acne, boils on my face, on my back, teeth problems, IBS, you name it. Wow. I was the typical sort of poster boy. To top this off, in my mid to late 20s, I could barely walk a flight of stairs without stopping or being severely out of breath. And I'm not saying that I couldn't climb a flight of stairs. I could, but I would struggle. I would be out of breath by the time I got to the top of this flight of stairs, or I would literally have to stop halfway to catch my breath. Now, I was told by my doctor that I was getting older and this was a fact of life, and I was in my mid to late 20s. Now, wow. I didn't want to resign to this fact. I didn't want to resign to the to their fact, if you like, that I was going to require medication for various things for the rest of my life. I was already on a myriad of medication, and I wasn't trained in nutrition at this point. I was a purchasing manager for an electrical engineering company. I was there. It was a job for life, a job that I really enjoyed. And what I decided to do was I removed bread, because I knew bread bloated me. It made me feel uncomfortable. So I didn't know why. I just knew that it didn't agree with me. I removed bread, and over the course of the next 2 months, I lost 2 stone in weight without trying. I wasn't dieting. I wasn't counting carb. I was just restricting or removing the bread that I knew bloated and made me feel uncomfortable. Off the back of that, I then started to remove other things that contained bread, like chicken nuggets and things. And I did eat healthy, by the way. Yes, I ate and consumed lots of rubbish, but I did actively try to consume healthy food, or quote unquote healthy foods. When I tried to eat healthier prior to this, I was consuming things like muesli in the morning with a chopped up banana or some berries, and a croissant with what was lunch? Things like rice with tuna, so a sweet potato. I tried my best to be healthy. I tried to consume the 5 fruit and veg a day, but when I did this, it just made me feel more unwell, more bloated, itchy skin, worse IBS. My migraines became even more detrimental, to the point where they were almost unbearable. And again, at this point, I'm on 3 medications for my migraines. I had a continuous headache, and this was the worst thing for me, because the migraines would make me blind. So if they progressed to the point in which people call it the aura or the flashing lights, if I couldn't nail it and nip it in the bud at that point, I would be blind for 3 days and bedridden, physically sick. I did have super hearing, though. I could hear little creatures crawling and things on. So I had superhuman hearing, but it's not what you want when you're suffering with a migraine. If only I could bottle that and put that into my daily life now. Yeah, we'd have superpowers. But look, off the back of that, I progressed further in restricting carbohydrate. Grains, I learned how detrimental the grains were to my gut. This brought me on. This opened a can of worms, because this goes against everything that we're taught. You know, we're told that grains are the staff of life. You know, these are the magic elixir. We're meant to consume grains for gut health and for general health and well-being. But these compounds were making me worse. Other compounds that I noticed that were affecting me were the seed oils. If I consumed seed oils, I'd have an upset stomach almost immediately. So this led me down this journey of in-depth research in regards to why grains are problematic for me. And this opened again a can of the worms in regards to non-celiac gluten sensitivity and the intestinal lining and the release of zonulin and the gap that appears in the tight junction between the epithelial cells lining the gut, which happens with everybody, by the way, if they consume certain compounds. Off the back of this, a very long story short, I won't bore you too much with this, but over the course of 12 months,
we want it. We want it, my brother. We want it.
You can have it both barrels if you like. Look, over the course of the 12 months, I lost 107 pounds. I was no longer in a diabetic range or insulin resistant. I was migraine free. My depression went away. My anxiety went away. My energy went through the roof. All of these other things went away. My IBS, my acid reflux, my skin conditions. I felt incredible. And the longer that I maintained this journey, the healthier that I felt. Now, when I went back to the doctor and said, look, hey, doc, look what I've done. I've changed my diet. Look at all these incredible things. And his reply to me was most upsetting. It's fantastic, but this diet is not healthy. You're going to die of heart disease. Red meat causes cancer, and so on and so forth. The usual things that we hear from the medical community. Now, I wasn't trained in nutrition at this point. I am now. I wasn't trained in nutrition, so I only had my doctor's word to go on. But I knew how I felt. I wasn't medically trained, but I knew how I felt. And this was the best that I had ever felt by a long way. So I left doctor's surgery feeling a little bit disconcerted. I felt ostracized, isolated, alone, because I was doing something that this thing didn't exist. And we're talking well over a decade ago. I mean, this was incredibly unknown, especially in the UK back then. What information was available was predominantly from the States. And much of this at the time was still in the early stages. And a lot of it was misinformation and things, you know. So I decided to persevere because I knew how I felt. Nobody could tell me that I didn't feel this good. Friends and family, obviously concerned. So they said the same things, you know. What about the red meat? Red meat causes cancer, you know. You can't add salt to your meals. Salt leads to high blood pressure. You need to eat lean cuts. What about your cholesterol? And all of these things. And again, I wasn't medically trained. I wasn't trained in nutrition at that point, but I knew how I felt. So I went through the process of retraining. I became a nutritionist. Much of what I was taught, I realized in that moment was incorrect because I was living the life. Now, I'll go off on a quick rant to this, and we'll come back to this quickly. I post a lot on social. You guys post a lot on social. I get I get a big slate in on social in the comments. You know, where's your evidence? This is what the research says. I don't care what the research says because I'm living this and I'm feeling this firsthand. I work with clients every day. I've worked with over 1,000 clients who have seen massive improvements, if not complete resolution of issues when they adopt a ketogenic or carnivore-based lifestyle, even if they just lower carb or, more importantly, restrict or remove grains and seed oils. And this is in 100% of cases. I don't need a clinical trial or research paper to tell me what I see right in front of me every single day. Yet, these keyboard warriors will post on these posts that I do, saying that I had one yesterday, fat checked, because I did something on, and I tagged you in this one. I tagged you in on the fact that red meat contains short chain fatty acids. And it came back and it said, it's wrong. It does not contain. And I did use the wrong terminology, but it was in the write-up. And I did mention butyrate, but it's not quite butyrate. It's isobutyrate, isovalerate, and propionate, which are short-chain fatty acids, which we obtain from animal proteins, which feed the colonocyte in our gut at a higher rate than butyrate from vegetables. So the point to this post was that we don't need fiber from plants. We get it from other sources. And in fact, beyond this, we don't even need the short-chain fatty acid butyrate, because you and I, the three of us on this call, we make beta-hydroxybutyrate. We have beta-hydroxybutyrate running through our veins, feeding every colonocyte, and not just the ones that the fiber comes in contact with. So I had a fat check write-up, which probably came from ChatGPT or something, saying that it was all lies. And it went on about TMAO and so on. And I replied to this anyway, but it's super frustrating. I don't need these studies to tell me what I've experienced in my life and what I see in the real world every single day. And the fact is that excessive amounts of carbohydrates were damaging my body. The grains were damaging my body. The seed oils were damaging my body. Real food is animal proteins and natural fats. Everything in nature protein that supplies us with protein comes with fat, and fat is incredibly important. It's not the demon that it's made out to be. Every cell in the body is made of protein. Spot on, that it is, nice and marbled. I love it. Every cell in the body is made of protein. Every cell in the body is made of fat, and only 1 to 2% of the weight of each cell in the body is polysaccharide. So that should tell us everything that we need to know about the amount of exogenous glucose that we need. And we do need glucose, by the way, but the body makes glucose. And again, we can get into this. But my journey saw me, after this weight loss, retrain. I also retrained and studied. So I study almost every day. My day is incredibly busy. I drop my little girl to school. I come to the office where I am now. I work until it's time to pick her up. I pick her up. I drop her to her nan's, come back to the office. And then I typically work until 9:30 p.m. And then I go home, fry a steak, and then I'm back. And this isn't brilliant for circadian rhythm and blue light, but it is coming from a place of passion. I then study. So I study for 3 to 4 hours most nights on a topic, and I will work towards that topic. And I'll study and qualify within that topic. So in the UK, there's something called a CPD point, which is to do with the hours of study that you gain within a specific topic. And last year, I basically worked towards over 800 hours of study in the evenings towards qualifications such as molecular biochemistry, epigenetics, to name a few. And this comes from a place of passion, because I don't want to, I know that A gets me to C. So I know that eating animal proteins and fats makes me feel fantastic. I want to know the B. So I want to know, as in much depth as I can, why these foods are so essential, why they make me feel the way I do, why everything that I do goes against what everybody else is telling me from the medical community, and why my body doesn't like carbohydrates, doesn't like seed oils, and why I thrive on natural fats. And this is what I do. So now I teach other people how to do the same. And just to side note back to this really quickly, and then you can hit me with wherever you like. Look, I could barely walk up a flight of stairs. Now, this is how powerful this lifestyle is. And I'm not telling you that you need to do this, but I began training again, which I had done all the way up to this point. I'd always been active. I tried to lift weights and be fit and healthy, but with very little success. It's perfect. Now, my physique changed, and I lost all this weight, so I was incredibly lean. But I started lifting weights, and then I started to build muscle. I started to build muscle at a rate of knots. And I thought, well, how can I best spread this word? How can I best tell the world that I'd found this secret that is the magic elixir to all health and well-being. I decided to get on stage. Now, this is somebody who suffers severely with anxiety and depression. My life was spent living in boxes. So the only time I'd leave my box, my house, was to jump into my metal box. I would drive my metal box to my place of work, which was another box. And then I would work inside my small box, inside this bigger box all day long. And that was it. And I would perform this in reverse. So my life was spent living, quite literally, spent living in boxes. This lifestyle had restored the glutamate and GABA ratio of my neurotransmitters. It allowed me to combat the depression, anxiety. My mental health had improved massively to the point that I was willing to set foot on stage in essentially my pants in order to show the world what I had achieved on zero carb. And there's an image there. I haven't lifted weights in 2.5 years. But what I did achieve, I think, is quite incredible. I went on to compete as an amateur bodybuilder in men's physique. I went on to become British champion as a pro, and eventually European champion. So I became British and European champion in 5 to 6 years of lifting weights, living this lifestyle, competing with people who had been training for over 20 years on zero carb, from unable to walk up the stairs to #1 in Europe. Now, I'm not telling you this because you need to lift weights and become a bodybuilder, but I'm not genetically gifted. It's this food, it's the lifestyle that allowed me to access parts of my DNA. That's it. The magic elixir. It's this that's allowed me to access parts of my DNA via something called epigenetics, which has allowed me to become the best version of myself. Now, my father died in his 60s from heart complications, and he was morbidly obese. And when you look at the pictures of him, you can see me in his face, because and the pictures of me are not hard to find. They're all over my social. I used to be incredibly large, and I was heading this way. This is where my DNA was taking me. This is where my genetics was taking me. That was my fate. 60s with cardiovascular disease and being morbidly obese. And I've managed to change this, not because I've somehow beat my genetics, but I've managed to flick the switch on my epigenetics and access parts of my genome that has allowed me to thrive in life and become the best version of myself. And now I've come away from the bodybuilding. I've dabbled in endurance sports in order to help others in regards to this. But on a daily basis, my job essentially as a nutritionist now is to help people from all walks of life, whether they have autoimmune issues, diabetes, you name it, anything in regards to health and well-being in general. This is what I try to do. Same as you guys, is to part these words of wisdom in order to help other people. I didn't get involved. If you want to make money in this world, you don't do it in the health space by giving the advice that we do, because there's no money to be made by telling people to eat meat, and people say that I'm in this for the money. If I wanted to make money, I'd be selling Mars bars or drugs, it's or both. The fact is, just eat meat, and it's in a nutshell, this is what it comes down to. But there we are. I'll pass over.
Whoa, man, amazing! And we could just go from there. And I wrote a bunch of notes. Why are we sick? What's our job for life? And I agree. Like, I always say, you never go after the money. You go after the mission of helping people become the men and the masters and the true athletes that we're born to be. Right. And you don't have to get up on stage and do this or do a marathon. But I love what you said, because the DNA that we're all born with pretty much says you are a lion and a lioness, not a pig, cow, and a sheep.
100%.
And the term healthy diet, maybe that's the propaganda that we're all been led with. And, a nutritionist knows a healthy diet, which is basically propaganda. And I always love this book, Plants That Kill. And I always love showing this because, and maybe you could comment on what toxins are in this that are killing us. Aren't they really in this?
100%. And look, the fact is that all plants contain toxins, defense chemicals, phytoalexins, compounds that can kill if consumed in high enough quantities. And this goes for every plant on the planet. And if we look at any plant, you pick a plant that's growing outside now, if you go and eat that, you will probably be sick. Yet we've managed to tell the world that there are certain groups of plants that are good for us and contain antioxidants, which is a myth, by the way. They're not antioxidants, they're pro-oxidants, and we can get into this if you like. But all plants contain defense chemicals. They're rooted to the ground. You and I can fight back or we can run away, but a plant is rooted to the ground. So its defense chemical is a toxin, a poison that is going to poison. Plants want to survive. We want to survive, and we are in an evolutionary arms race, if you like, for survival. And it's the plants want to survive just as much as we do. So they contain these defense chemicals, varying degrees, but even some of the most common vegetables that you know will kill if consumed in high enough quantities. And we can get into this again if you want, but I'll pass it back to you.
Well, do you know of anyone that's had an anaphylactic reaction to a ribeye steak? And my daughter is highly allergic to bananas and avocados, and I know of no one that's allergic to red meat, technically. What's your thoughts?
I've never known anybody to suffer with any form of intolerance to meat. You know, I know some people who say that they can't consume the fat within the meat, but this is more psychological. We're designed, and in fact, there was a test done. I can't remember when it was, when they tested vegetarians, vegans, and meat eaters, and basically that even at a subconscious level, they are when they see images of cooked meat with the fat on, their brain goes crazy for it, whether they want to consciously admit it or not. So subconsciously, these compounds are deeply embedded, they're ingrained in our genome. We are designed to eat these compounds, and we know this for a fact from nitrogen isotope testing, that we are carnivores. And in fact, we're not just carnivore, we are hyper carnivore, which means that we would have consumed other carnivores. And, you know, we would have consumed plants, but these are survival foods. We would have consumed these when animal proteins were not available. You know, and it just makes perfect sense. A piece of beef contains every vitamin and mineral that we need, not just to survive, but thrive. There it is. That is your multivitamin. You don't need a multivitamin. Everything that you need is in there.
What about vitamin C?
Right. So vitamin C is contained in beef. So an average 12-ounce steak, for example, contains around 12 milligrams of vitamin C. The interesting thing with vitamin C is that, yes, it can be absorbed through certain vitamin C pathways, but much of it is absorbed and transported via GLUT4, the GLUT4 transporter, which is the same transporter that we use for glucose. So you and I, if we consume less glucose, our requirement for higher vitamin C, it comes down. So we need less vitamin C because they're no longer competing through that pathway. I haven't consumed any vitamin C supplements since I've been living a ketogenic or carnivore-based lifestyle, and I'm still yet to suffer with scurvy. And we know from the Napoleonic War that they used to feed the dead horse meat to soldiers who suffered with scurvy in order to cure that scurvy. Wow. So red meat contains vitamin C. It contains compounds that plants do not consume. And I'll just give you a quick example. The first one on the list, vitamin A, does not exist in plants. Vitamin A does not exist in plants. Growing up, my mother told me to eat my carrots for my vitamin A. And this is a fallacy because no plant contains vitamin A. Plants contain a compound called beta-carotene, which is not vitamin A. True vitamin A is retinol. Vitamin A needs to be converted into retinol via a number of processes, an enzyme called BCMO, and it also involves T4. So we use T4 to convert this beta-carotene into retinol. And if we are lucky enough, so basically, coming back at a point there, if you suffer with thyroid problems, then the last thing you want to be doing is depleting your T4 by consuming too much beta carotene. But if you are lucky enough to convert this beta carotene into retinol via T4, the retinol that's left is used to convert the T4 into T3, which means now you're probably devoid of retinol or vitamin A everywhere else in the body. So it's the conversion is over 20 times. I think it's like 21 times it takes to convert beta carotene into retinol. But guess what contains high amounts of retinol? And there it is. Tons of it, tons of the stuff, and other compounds that we cannot get from plants. And we can get into that if you want, but the list goes on and on and on.
Do you think that liver and organ meats are important in our diet?
I think you can put them in. I would be caught, so I need to be careful what I say with this, because I eat organ meats, but I don't eat much. And the reason for this is that some of the organ meats can be higher in toxicity when it comes to things like copper, but they are incredibly nutrient dense. But what I would say to people is it's not essential. But if you look from an evolutionary standpoint, we would have spent a few days maybe hunting and tracking an animal. We would have caught that animal and we would have consumed everything within that animal. And that includes the blood, the connective tissue for our collagen, organ meats. But the organ meats make up a very small portion comparative to the muscle meat. So as a percentage, the organ meats would have made up a small portion. So if you are eating organ meats, you don't need much. So for example, if I may eat liver once or twice a week, but it's a tiny little amount. It's not very much. You don't need organ meats to thrive. But what I would say to this is if you suffer with methylation issues, and we look at methylation, and particularly the methylation cycle, which goes on to the folate cycle and the transsulfuration cycle, the urea cycle, and the BH4 cycle, they're all connected. Now, one of the main ingredients in the first part of this cycle is B3, which we know of. Obviously, the folate, because it's the folate cycle, B9. But the one that always gets missed out is vitamin B2. Incredibly important. Even on a muscle meat-based diet, if we methylate slowly, we still may be devoid of adequate B2. And we can negate this by increasing the B2 from a little slither of beef liver. So what I'd say is if you want organ meats, fantastic, but you don't need to overconsume them. But they are incredibly nutrient dense. And I know there's lots of people out there who say that we shouldn't eat them at all. I do eat them, but there we are.
And you know, whether it's organ meats or liver, I mean, I think this is an alternative for people who aren't eating the organ meats 100%. Personally. But another thing that's real important, maybe you could comment about, I got to find my props here. What's your thoughts on salt?
Salt. So, I mean, let's go back to the organ meats. I think the amount that I consume is probably 1 or 2 slithers of beef liver, lamb liver, incredibly nutrient dense. Heart, incredibly high in coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 ubiquinone. We use this for many processes with the body to create DNA. I quite enjoy things like heart. Heart is incredibly tasty. Liver, I'm not a fan of. So coming back to the liver, most people don't like liver. So, those types of supplements, which I don't even regard as supplements because they're foods. They are a fantastic way of obtaining lots of nutrients if you divide. And the problem with coming from a background of a typical diet is that the body is in a state of damage and it needs to be repaired. So adding in organ meats or supplemented sort of organ desiccants, for example, they can be incredibly beneficial in order to fill that bucket, especially in the early stages, because the body's going to be devoid of essential nutrients to heal and repair. So when it comes to, if people ask me in regards to supplementation, multivitamins, I'm not a fan of, but I will always guide them in the direction of organ meat supplements in regards to this, because essentially they are foods.
Well, if you look at if you look at the FDA statement that that supplements can neither be used to treat disease or a deficiency in essence. And when was the last time you talked to someone that had scurvy or rickets?
My goodness, I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody within the ketogenic or carnivore community. Quite the opposite, in fact.
And even in the standard world, these things like don't exist in the world today. They exist in the world where there was war and significant lack of access to food. But today it just doesn't exist. And I just wonder, our science, is maybe the science a little too snake oil and complicated, and really the simplicity is what you're saying is eat meat, go out and do some work in the day, and have a mind of positivity?
Yeah, look, 100%. There's no profit in a healthy patient. I don't give money to cancer charities any longer, and people will think ill of me for not doing so. But I don't believe that things like cancer charities we've been trying to cure cancer for X amount of years, and we've made very little progress. The fact is that when it comes to things like this, and you understand what fuels, these things, it's glucose. So it's super simple. These things, the answers are already out there. When it comes to medication, in fact, somebody tagged me in a post yesterday in regards to how many trillions the pharmaceutical companies make on medication. And then the next statement was how much of this money has gone into teaching people about real nutrition, health, and well-being, and it's zero. So the fact is, we may believe that these companies that make healthy products or drugs are there for our betterment, but the fact is they're there for this, and there's no profit in a healthy patient. One group of companies makes us unwell, and the other, their business partners come in with medication to make us better. In their defense, it's a perfect business model, but it's corrupt.
And you've been doing social media for how long?
I've been doing social since I started this journey. So I was never a lover of social prior
5 years,
to this.
10 years, 2 years?
So probably close to 10 years, maybe longer.
And so would you agree that your presence here has more value than what you can do in seeing one patient every 15 minutes in an office?
I think so. I think the web is a fantastic tool to spread information on social. And for that reason, much of my content is suppressed. So if you visit my YouTube channel, for example, you'll see that my subs, I think, are currently, looking over on the other screen, 16,500. It's had I not mentioned a few keywords, then maybe my channel will be 10 times the size that it is. But it's much of the content that I put out has been suppressed across all platforms, unfortunately. But
well, it seems to me that the powers of the priest, the president, the pope, the physicians, along with the kings and the queens of the world, are basically telling the serfs, the peasants, prisoners, slaves, and soldiers to eat the plants, don't eat the meat. You cannot go to the hunting grounds. And they know. And isn't the problem we've been thinking that the experts and the scientific journals are really there to give us the right answer? But in fact, they're trying to keep us weak, meat controlled, and sick.
Yeah, 100%, without question. And look, this isn't conspiracy theory. You don't need to look far to see it. It's all you need to do is open your eyes and look from the simplest perspective that I can give. We have, as a people, we have been living to the guidelines better than we ever have in recent years. We've been watching our saturated fats. We've been tracking our cholesterol. We've been avoiding salt. We've been avoiding red meat. We've been eating lean cuts. We've been consuming our grains and our 5 fruit and veg a day. We're more active than we've ever been. We're doing the things that we're told to do. Yet, cancer's through the roof. Diabetes is through the roof. Autoimmune disease is through the roof. All of these, whatever we are doing, and you don't need a clinical trial or research paper. All you need to do is take a step back, open your eyes, and look out of your window or look in your high street, and you will see that the average person, in fact, spot a healthy person. Most people there are overweight and unwell. And it's heartbreaking, because if you can see footage from the 1950s when people are walking down the street, you'd be hard pressed to find one overweight person. And I'm not talking that I don't want people to think that I'm saying that, overweight makes you unwell, but it's when you become healthy, you lose weight, and not the other way around. So we don't lose weight to become healthy. When we're healthy, we lose the weight. And back in the 1950s, we would eat bacon and eggs cooked in butter for breakfast. We wouldn't be consuming, Kellogg's cornflakes or those other crap.
we had Farmer John bacon and eggs, but then it was usually the Cheerios or Kellogg's cornflakes, which I suffered from migraines, arthritis, psoriasis, bowel bleeding, kidney stones. I was dyslexic, couldn't read, ADHD, OCD, kicked out of school in a gang, father in jail. And I can tell you also, oh my God, inferiority all day long, and worried like, oh my God, can I really say something in front of the people? Somehow the world would spin around, and like, and when I went carnivore almost 15 years ago, I'm like, and as a fertility doctor, and maybe this is an interesting one, right? So the American College of OBGYN, which kind of shares the expert opinion on what women that are pregnant and lactating should eat. And exactly what is it? I get the right page here, but it is quite amazing.
I think I ate it, and that's why I gained 80 pounds in my first pregnancy.
but gaining weight is not the problem. Obesity is not the problem.
Right.
Fat causes no disease. I want us in the keto carnivore space to acknowledge obesity causes no disease. It's the plant lean meat diet. That is all it is. In 2 weeks, an obese patient will feel like $1 billion on carnivore.
Right.
So, oh God, wait a minute, they're obese.
3 days. 3 days for me.
If there's a famine and you're skinny, like, I mean, we're fertilizer fast, right? You better know how to hunt. But the American College of OBGYN recommends plant-based foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, herbs, spices, olive oil, fish, poultry, and red wine. Whoa. And they say limit red meat a few times per month, which the benefits of this diet reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, mortality, cancers, and cognitive diseases. Should they be arrested for this?
I think it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. There's and this is the thing. If you understand biology, biochemistry, nutrition, it's super simple to see. And it's there in black and white. The animal proteins contain every vitamin and mineral. That there is the magic elixir to health and well-being.
Okay, I'm going to change one thing. Animal meat, fatty animal meat contains every mineral and vitamin. It's actually the fat that carries it all, because a bear hibernates 6 months, loses no muscle mass and no bone mass. It loses only adipose tissue, yet it builds 1 to 4 babies. So I think we need to focus on it's the fat that contains all the minerals and vitamins, amino acids, simple sugars, and fatty acids, and cholesterol, everything. And again, the protein, but it's not protein, it's a cell that contains all those things. But that's where I think we need to be more truthful. Eat the fat, and the raw fat is the best fat. Can you comment about that,
the best
Rich?
part.
Right?
It's the best part. It's look, I think we are intuitively driven to eat the fat. Who doesn't like the bacon? The fat on their bacon, or it's. I look, and I'll tell you a funny story really quickly. I train most Wednesdays. I'm not training with him today because he's in Lanzarote training, but with one of the top athletes in Ironman in Ironman, Mikey Davis. So Mikey Davis, good friend of mine. He's an amateur triathlete, but he's the European champion as an amateur, and he is the fastest Welshman ever to complete Kona World Championships. He's carnivore. he used to be vegan. And when he started working with me, he came to one of my athletic performance talks, started to see big improvements in athletic performance. And now I train with him on a Wednesday. We do track sessions. His training is like zone 2 and I'm fighting for my life. But anyway, that's not the point. I'm there doing it. So after this, we go to the butcher. We go to our local butcher, and we were there recently, and we're talking to the butcher, and a lady comes in, and no disrespect to this lady, but she was probably 4 times my size. And she came in and she asked for some, she's probably about the size that I used to be. And she asked for some lamb, and I'm thinking, wow, fair play, because lamb is incredibly nutrient dense. And then the butcher, Chris, puts it up, and then she said, oh, can you cut all the fat off? And I'm like, oh. So a little piece inside of me dies. And I said, oh, Chris, what are you going to do with the fat? And he said, oh, I don't know, we'll probably chuck it. I said, oh, can I buy the fat? And this lady looked at me as if I was absolutely bonkers. You want the fat? I was like, yeah, but the fat isn't good for you. And I'm stood next to the European champion who looks super athletic. I'm not too bad myself. And then, but somebody who's, and this is a case of cognitive dissidence. It's, people can't see what's right in front of them. You're trying to do the right things and it's not working. There are 2 people who are asking for the very thing that you were trying to discard. And and I explained politely that it's essential for hormone production, healing and repairing. Every cell in the body is made of fat, cholesterol. And look, we can get into this also if we want to, but cholesterol is essential for cell formation, cell communication, nutrient absorption, nutrient transportation, the production of hormones. And there it is. It's essential. We cannot live without fat. It's essential for healing, and it's essential for the production of hormones. If you want to be fit and healthy, we need these fats. This is the magic elixir. But this lady looked at me as if I was absolutely bonkers because I wanted her fat. And I politely explained, and you could see that it was not, you're wrong because of this, and this. And I just, you try. I feel like I have a responsibility to teach people. But by doing so, you tend to ostracize many people. Many people will push you away, and I've lost lots of friends through doing this.
But you've gained many, many more admirers of what you're doing. So, I always say a handful of friends, and putting it out there is really what you're doing. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's, I wanted to get that out there.
But by all means, look, this and this is what people don't understand. This comes from a place of passion for me. It's changed my life in ways that I could never have imagined. I see it working every day, and I've got a fantastic story to tell you after this, which involves fertility. So right up your street. I see people changing their lives every single day. And when I see someone who is sick and unwell, I feel that it's my responsibility to part words of wisdom. Most of the time, it falls on deaf ears, or they think I'm absolutely bonkers, or they no longer want to be my friend or associate. And I've lost lots and lots of friends.
They will be back. Again, it's this, it's like our parents, our brothers, or sisters are like, it's this, where it's the yin and the yang, where this is the battle we're in. And, I wanted to bring this up. You ever notice that butter never molds? This has been in my refrigerator for like 6 months open.
Wow.
I eat it, I don't, and it never molds. And so this is the part, the fat is so critical, and it kills the microbes in the gut, which are trying to kill you, by the way. I think the probiotics are like bad for us personally. The microbiome is like a army of killers, right? And the plants and the microbes basically want to take us down and make us fertilizer. Any comments on that, Rich?
Yeah, look, I completely agree. It's everything that we've been told about health and well-being is we can turn it on its head, and quite simply, the problem that we have and that we're up against is you've got these keyboard warriors who will search their favorite search engine, and these search engines, they're no longer information platforms. They are advertising platforms. They're advertising platforms for the pharmaceutical companies and the sugar industries. And have you noticed when you see something on Facebook or YouTube and it says that you've gone against community guidelines, this doesn't mean that you've offended somebody within the community of people. It means you've offended one of their paying contributors, one of their supporters, financial supporters. That's what it means. And unfortunately, these are the people who are involved in pharmaceuticals and sugar companies. So the second you, and this is why my channel doesn't grow, by the way, because I'm continuously putting information.
It's growing immensely. I see it growing immensely. And again, I've been following Rich Keto Pro for a while with Stephen Thomas, UK Carnivore, and those two do lives, they do Q&As, but you're right, you're putting your time and energy because you care, and ultimately that's the most important part that I've learned. And I mean, I pay to do, like, I just keep on putting, it's an investment, and that's where I think is the most important part, that this is an investment. And I was listening to old guy carnivore Mitch, who, like, you know, you got to watch the guy, and he said he's not coming to Tampa, but I'm telling you, everyone, please send a message to Mitch, come to Tampa. We want to see you for the Friday night and Saturday stuff, because you are really powerful. And I don't know if you're going to be in the Tampa, Florida area this weekend, Rich, but if you want to stop by,
fly over, get a flight right now.
Do you know, it's I will be making a visit to the States at some point this year. I was going to come to one of the events that you are at in June. I think, was it Meat Fest potentially?
Meat-up in May.
In May.
Is it June or May?
In May, but it's in. But I cannot make that one. I'm already speaking at a different event, which and a good friend of mine is running that. It's an event in Marbella, men's health retreat, and it's a fantastic event. So I'm there that weekend. But beyond that, I'm going to be looking for an excuse to come over and see you guys in person. And
we're going to be doing one Syracuse, Sarasota, either later in the year or early next year. We're working on a date, so you're the first to be invited, by the way. So we'd love you to be there and be one of keynote speakers, because your amazing energy when you're on stage, people are really inspired by you. I know
we have tons of questions.
We can just keep talking and not take.
We should get some of those questions.
Wait. Hashtag Keto Pro. What is that?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna bring that up. First of all, I want to thank the 240 people that are watching. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. We would love a like on whatever channel you're watching from, because it'll help the algorithm push this out further. This great information. Keto Pro, hashtag Keto Pro will get you a Kiltz's Keto is Carnivore book today. Yay!
And
I think
we got a lot of things to really do to inspire our brothers and sisters around the globe that were born lionesses and lions, but we've been fed like sheep. When you feed a lion or a wolf plants, they become domesticated cats and dogs. And so to get back to who and what you are, eat the meat, to be the master, and feed the plants to your meat. All right, questions.
100%.
All right, here you go. Just one guy. Would Dr. Kiltz mind answering a random question regarding fertility? My wife is trying to get pregnant and is on carnivore. Should we be looking to make her climax? Does this help? What helps? What helps pregnancy, Dr. Kiltz?
Oh, well, flatter him, feed him, and make love to him. Done.
Sure.
You see, everyone's like, oh my God, what is going to work? You got to still have sex and sensuality, right? And Rich, do you have any comments on fertility? Because I know you see and talk to everyone.
Look, just one story that I'd like to tell you guys is that a good friend of mine, his sister, who had 7 rounds of IVF and failed, constantly asking his sister to visit the channel and make some dietary changes. Super long story short, 3 months after gravitating into this way of living, she became pregnant naturally, and she's just given birth to a baby girl. So look, you know, and that is without IVF. So this is the power of eating highly nutrient dense foods, and there it is. It's there in black and white.
Highly nutrient, and there's no toxins.
Toxin free.
Toxins, the birth control pill and the abortion pill are made from plants, by the way.
Right.
This is crazy. So, all right, next question.
Helen, hot stuff. Question: struggling to lose any weight, seeing a genealogist for men or who prescribed progesterone medication. This has helped, but could it be preventing fat loss? Carnivore now for 75 days. 52
Seeing
years
a
old.
gynecologist for menorrhagia, prescribed progesterone medication. This has helped, but could be preventing fat loss. Carnivore now for 75 days, 52 years young. Go ahead, Rich.
Look, so what we need to remember with this, medication can always be problematic. I can't give advice on medication because I'm not medically trained, but I can tell you what I would do myself and what I've seen in person. Medication is used in the short term. And there are places for medication, by the way. If it wasn't for medication, several times in my life, I would be dead without question. And this is what plants are. Plants are medicines, but we're not designed, at least in my opinion, to take medication long-term for prolonged periods of time, because they are toxins, by the way. And again, we can get into this. But what I would say is 75 days isn't a very long time. We come from a lifetime of abuse, and it takes time to heal and repair this. And it can take, I've worked with clients who it's taken well over 12 months in order to start healing and repairing. Many people see it far before then. But look, consistency is key. We need to feed the body the nutrients it needs. We need to give it and there it is. And there it is, the magic elixir. And just as important, if not more important, we need to remove the toxic compounds which are blocking the body's ability to use these nutrients. And these compounds are things like lectins and phytic acids and fiber and so on and so forth, anti-nutrients. Yeah, these are compounds that we're not designed to consume. And just to put it into perspective, these compounds can block the absorption of things like zinc, iron, and magnesium by as much as 100%, essential nutrients. So look, consistency is key. Don't give up. Keep pushing forward. Prioritize animal proteins and natural fats. I think
animal fats. Animal fats, right? And it's the animal fat that's critical. Bighorn Mountain has a primal blend which has ground beef and beef liver, and they're working on one to throw in all the organ meats, which is something that we're really working on partnering with and helping share how important that is. But that's natural, so animal. So eat the nose to tail, eat the animal, the organ meats, the fat. What about cooked versus raw?
Fantastic question. Circling back to what you just mentioned, this is what I do with my organ meats, by the way. So that's a fantastic tip that you've just given there. At my local butcher, I will ask him to put organ meats into the mincemeat, into the ground beef. So he can do different percentages, 90 to 10 or 80 to 20. But it's a fantastic way to get all of these nutrients if you do not like to consume them. And then obviously there's the option for your desk and tablets, which...
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, and you comment about the liver, because liver, think about it. It's the organ that is the first pass for everything that comes from the gut. And it's there mainly to make fat, but it detoxifies. And what is it mostly detoxifying?
Plant compounds.
And so maybe an excessive liver part, it doesn't taste as good, does it?
It doesn't. I'm not a fan of liver. And it's lamb liver does seem to be more palatable. Heart, which is full of fat, by the way. Yeah. I love heart. Incredible. So it's big fan.
And I guess you need to be in line at the butcher when the person in front of you says, cut all the fat away. And you say, okay, great, just throw it on mine.
That's it. Yeah. Right. So I get this lamb fat and I make these big fat chips. So I pan fry and I do it that way. But circling back to the other question, look, raw meat is incredibly nutrient dense. If you can eat raw meat, fantastic. Many of you can't, but what we need to understand is that the longer that we cook, the more that we're degrading the nutrients in there. Yep. But that said, that isn't an excuse not to eat well-cooked meat if that's all you're going to consume, because there's more nutrients in well-cooked meat than any other plant on the planet. So even a poor source of animal proteins is going to contain more nutrients than anything you're going to get from plants. What I would add, I'm a big fan of pan frying and barbecuing. But there is a caveat to this. And one of the things that I'll let you in on, which I've become accustomed to recently, is a compound called acrylamide, which is found in coffee. It led to neuromuscular problems with me. So acrylamide is created during the roasting process. And it can be incredibly damaging, and it can be a big contributor to things like ALS and other motor neuron conditions. Now, it can also be created if we overcook meat. So another reason not to overcook, or a reason not to cook at too much of a high temperature, because the acrolein within the meat, it goes through this process and creates acrylamide if we heat it too high or cook it too quick or for too long. So we don't want to burn the meats if we can help it. So what I do, I like my meat rare, but I put it in the pan. I put the lid on the pan and I cook it at a low temperature for a little bit longer. It creates its own environment full of the juices, and it cooks almost like a slow cook, but it's only for a few minutes. And I do like it raw in the middle, so it doesn't take long to cook, but that cooks it perfectly for me. And that way it's not burned. That doesn't mean that you can't indulge in a barbecue, because again, it's still more nutrient dense, and acrylamide is accumulative, so you can still get away with this. But raw, if you can do it, but lightly cooked if you need to, ideally. But even overcooked meat is still going to carry far more nutrients than the best plant that you can imagine on the planet.
And if you look at Pottinger's cats, he showed that raw meat, raw milk was better for those cats, and they got sick, and their future generations got sick if they were on cooked meat or pasteurized milk. So I think we are built for raw fatty meat, the healthiest thing you can eat, personally. And I think it's like anything else. It's a stepwise progression. Okay, I never eat meat. Okay, now you eat meat. And there's a question there somewhere about chicken, fish, turkey. What are your thoughts on those things?
So for me personally, I love all meats. I love all animal proteins. I preference beef and lamb. I'm fortunate that I live it's not fortunate that I live in South Wales because of the weather. I'd much rather be with you guys in the States in the sun. But we have lamb. Lamb is readily available, and it's incredibly nutrient dense. Fantastic vitamin B profile, amino acid profile. So I love eating beef and lamb. But I probably prefer beef, I'll be honest. So I do preference that. Now, I do like chicken, and I do like pork. If I eat these, I tend to limit it to maybe once a week or once every few weeks. I do believe that they are not as nutrient dense as red meat. I believe they have the potential for more damage in some people. If we look at the carnivore community, even within the carnivore community, the only source of meats that don't seem to be problematic are beef and lamb, ruminant animals. Chicken can be problematic. Chickens are usually fed grains, which means that then they have a higher level of lectins and linoleic acid. Pork, for example, is around 10 times higher in linoleic acid than beef. It, in theory, shouldn't be a problem because it's non-oxidized if it's fresh. But the fact is, most of us have pork in the form of bacon, which is technically aged, so then would become oxidized. But what we tend to find is that even within the carnivore community, coffee can be problematic, chicken can be problematic, pork can be problematic, fish can be problematic, eggs can be problematic. I eat all of these things, but I preference beef and lamb predominantly, and these things just fill the periphery, if you like, as and when. And if I eat a little, they don't seem to cause me problems. But the magic elixir is the red meat, beef and lamb.
I think pork ultimately as a human food is one of the best. We have been brainwashed against it. And ultimately the pig, it forages on its own. It really does amazing, and it reproduces quite well, and it doesn't take much sort of handling by a human. And so I always say beef and pork, but I do love lamb, Richard. So and some good, I know you guys have some really, really great lamb. So those are my three. I think.
Sorry, just to bounce on what you've said about the pork. Pork today isn't what it once was, unless you could, because as you say, pigs are meant to be in the forest foraging, and if you can find pig. Mangalitsa, for example, is good quality pork. These are incredibly nutrient dense. So if you can find real forest foraged or pigs that are fed what they're meant to be fed and not grain fed, then you're on to a winner. So they're very two different things. Unfortunately, most people buy their pork from the supermarket, injected with all sorts of chemicals. But look, even pork from a factory is far more nutrient dense than the most nutrient dense plant. You know, and I love pork, especially the one, you know, with the thickest piece of fat on there. And I do like to crisp that up and it's fantastic. So I eat all animal proteins, but it's I tend to preference beef and lamb.
Yeah. A couple of the questions. You have a few extra minutes, Rich?
Fire away.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Here we go. Question from Dee. Stopped HTR after taper December 31st. When will hot flashes stop? Sleep is trash. 100% high fat carnivore 1 year. No cheats.
Rich, do you have any comments on that?
You fire away and I'll jump in.
Well, I'm hormone replacement therapy. I think the problem is that you're put on it. And then now you sensitize yourself to needing a drug, right? But carnivore is critical. And maybe, Rich, you could talk about this is where I think some physical work is important, mental work is important. And what about hot, cold therapy and things like that? Because I think we've sort of been brainwashed and thinking, well, this is all abnormal and something's going on.
Yeah, fantastic. So look, 100%, it's if we look at from a men's perspective with TRT, for example, it stops our own natural production, which we don't want to do. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't, you know, maybe take these things. There are circumstances in which possibly, but I'm not a big fan of starting in the first place. So as you say, going on, you know, on hormone replacement therapy is going to be problematic in the first place. There are many contributing factors to this. If we look at how we create thyroid hormone, for example, it does so from the hypothalamus, pituitary, and then the thyroid. And there are many parts involved with this sequence. Iron, for example, is involved in the conversion of iodide into iodine. So iron is incredibly important. And iron from plants to animals are two very different things because of the porphyrin ring. So heme iron is very different from iron found in plants. And then we've converted this iodide into iodine, and then it binds to tyrosine on the thyroglobulin, which makes our T4, which is brilliant. In order to convert that T4 to T3, we need selenium. Well, animal proteins are a fantastic source of selenium also. And in order to function correctly and properly, we need a number of things. We need an incredibly nutrient-dense diet that contains iodine, which is found in animal proteins. So iodine, we've got the iron, again, a critical step, and we've got the selenium. But also, just as important is the body's ability to make hormone. And again, coming back to what I said about vitamin A, we want to avoid beta-carotene from plants. And also, if we look at things like broccoli contains a compound called isothiocyanate. We know a famous one of sulforaphane, which we're told confers huge benefits, which it does not, by the way. Probably a talk for another day. Sulforaphane will compete at the thyroid for the absorption of iodine, therefore leading to thyroid problems. Oxalates are another contributing factor. So I think this person's doing the right thing. We need lots of fats for hormone production. Keep persevering, and hopefully, you know, things will start to take over. But look, it's difficult to tell without having a full back history and seeing bloods in particular. But this is a healing lifestyle, and we can't expect to build a solid structure on a loose foundation. The foundation needs to be solid, and quite often this is what we're doing in the early stages: is we're repairing our foundation. We're solidifying that foundation in order to build off of this. So it will come. And there are things that we can do, but this probably requires a full consultation with either yourself, you know, Dr. Kiltz, or with me.
How do they find you, Rich?
It's super easy. So I'm on Richard Smith Nutrition on YouTube.
I'm going to show that.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
We'll put a link in this for everyone.
Brilliant. I'm also available. So all of my links, in fact, are on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, any video that I post either at the top or the bottom of the write-up, we'll see. And there it is. There's me. Not the best picture, I must admit.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, it's awesome. Awesome. I love it when he's like, when he was like, what was that, your first win, or one of the wins where you're just like ripped. And we love your inspiration, by the way. We love it. Yep. Oh, there. Yeah. It's in the background. Yeah. Who's the winner today? Because some people may have to go.
Oh yeah, can we just give them one more second to do hashtag Keto Pro in any chat? Put hashtag Keto Pro.
And by the way, anyone that's adding any super chats and things like that around the globe for all of us, this simply invests in your health and wellness. That's why we're here. And Richard Smith Keto Pro, think of it an investment in your health and wellness. I was listening to Mitch yesterday, old guy carnivore, and the truth is there are many people that it helps them do the content, be there. And so, I mean, I have a second job, and I know Rich has or does, but he's there giving direct individual advice, community advice. It's not medical advice, as they say, but I think you get the very best medicine from people like Richard Smith on Keto Pro.
Appreciate that. Way too kind, as always.
Well, when I was in London and got a chance to meet with so many amazing other people there in the carnivore space with Healing Humanity, Olivia had a great breakfast the day we were all leaving, and what a spectacular time. And everyone around needs to create their own carnivore meetups, and it could be one person, yourself. But you put it out there online, you're going to attract others that will be scratching their heads. But, again, they may chastise us, but eventually they go like, excuse me, Rich, can you share with me exactly what you're doing? Right?
Yeah. Lead by example, isn't it?
And Coach Steven is here, another rock star in this space. So
I just chatted him. Please email me. I'm trying to reach you. Coach Steven.
Yeah. We got to bring, listen, and repetitive. This is a daily. Wouldn't you say, Rich, that this is not like once a month, once a week? You got to be showing up every single day.
100%. And look, I think if we can build the community, then we have this support network. As you say, Stephen, in my opinion, is probably one of the top blood experts in the world.
Yes.
Within our space. He's done books. He's available for consultations. Highly recommended. I go live with Stephen every Sunday on YouTube at 7 p.m. GMT for live Q&A, which is recorded. So any questions that you ask and can't make. But beyond that, we also have a private school group, which I believe Dr. Kiltz, you were an honorary member of. So we're live in there also twice a week. So we go live on the Sunday at 8 p.m. GMT for 30 minutes, and Monday for a full hour of Q&A. Now, this is a paid service. It's $9 a month. So it's around like $1 per live, essentially. But it's a private Zoom call or Teams meeting in which people can join and ask their questions. There's usually 20 to 30 people on the call, but super informative. It's a cheap way to book a consultation, if you like, because I do consultations. Stephen does private consultations. If you want to book them, they're available. But the reason that we've created this school group is to do just what you've said, exactly what you said, and build and create this community. Because when we have accountability, things become easier. And I'll give you an example. When I was bodybuilding, I went to see a professional posing coach because I did the nutrition, I did all the training myself, but I didn't know how to pose. So I paid someone to teach me how to pose and make the best of my body. When this posing coach competed, he booked a posing coach. Yet he was one of the world's best posing coaches, but he did this for accountability, had somebody to speak to, a soundboard, if you like. And this is incredibly important. So whether you do it via the chat, many people are talking amongst themselves, which is fantastic. It's all about building this community, helping each other and learning from each other. I learn every day. So much so that I feel almost like an imposter, because every time I start to learn something new, I open a can of worms and realize how much I do not actually know. The more you learn, the more you realize you do not know. Every time I come on a call like this, I learn from you guys. Every time I do a podcast with Stephen, I learn from Stephen, and I learn from some of the best minds within the nutrition and health space. And that's exactly what it is. It's this community of helping and sharing, building and growing. But however you do it, via meetups in person or online, just be part of the community.
And eat the meat.
And just eat meat. Hashtag just eat meat.
Eat the meat.
Oh, that'll be tomorrow. Hashtag just eat meat.
Yes. So we appreciate you, Rich. Let's do our prize here.
Who's gonna be the winner today?
Maybe we can even get a giveaway for 6 months of Keto Pro, something like that.
Dr. Kiltz, soon we're gonna have 10 tasty ceramic air fryers to give away in the next couple of weeks. I'm getting that worked out. We're gonna have 10 air fryers.
And again, these are things that if you have something that you want to give away to our group every day, we're going to do
100%.
Monday through Friday lives, Sundays mostly at 10. But I'm going to be traveling this weekend, so it's going to be a little tight. And okay, how many more tickets do we have for the meetup on Saturday morning?
We have 50-ish.
All right. I'm going to donate those 50 tickets.
Wow. Wow. Just come on over.
We want people to just show up and learn. For those last people like, oh, I can't do this. And when you're there, you might have the opportunity to also donate to Healing Humanity. But we just want you to be there. So
yes,
Richard,
I will post that all over.
Super generous.
Richard,
I wish I could be there. I'm so jealous.
You will be there. We're going to live stream it, hopefully, but we're just sharing it with the world. So if you just share it to your community, that would be really 100%.
Awesome. You send me the StreamYard link, and I will share it to all of my community.
Done.
Awesome.
Super exciting.
All right.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you all. Massively appreciated.